Hey everybody, we're live. We're going to be talking about the new student loan updates today. A couple of them came out over the last week or two. They weren't that big, so I didn't jump on do a live or anything. There are some small nuance type of things in there, and then the one that broke at the end of last week. It is a big deal. We're going to be talking about IBR processing of applications, when that's going to happen. Going to be talking about this new thing about filing separately and all that type of stuff. How they're going to be calculating payments supposedly. I'll drop in some stuff about like PSLF, talk about recertification, maybe maybe some tariff information. I know you guys are probably a little bit overwhelmed with all the tariff stuff. It's all over the place. Every news channel you read. But maybe we'll cut through some bullshit on that as well. We'll see how much time that we have. But with that being said, let's jump into it. The big news came out, I think Friday night, Friday afternoon, maybe Saturday. I don't remember. But it came in two pieces. First of all, in a lawsuit that's going through right now, the Trump administration came out and basically said there's no need to force them to do applications. Basically, the loan servicers have already been told to start processing the applications, and that I believe it's either May 10th or May 11th that all of them will have it done and applications processed by that time period. So that's the good news. Is every single one of you that have been waiting, and we've had some people waiting since August of last year to get on some of these income-based repayment plans. They're finally going to be being processed. The bad news around that is that the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals hasn't finalized a lot of stuff, so we still got some things up in the air around like pay-as-you-earn, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the next one I'm going to talk about is a big deal because it's filing separately. Okay. Student loans are a shit show. But I mean, let's be honest. It's a system that's supposed to be easy. It's anything but. And I know right now there's a lot of stuff on the internet, like targeting President Trump, saying he is his fault, blah, blah, blah. But let's be honest, right? I mean, the student loan system was a shit show before President Trump. I've been in knee deep in student loans for the last 10 years. I mean, I know when President Obama came in, PSLF was already a bad, like, it was a nightmare. He cleaned that up a little bit, thankfully, to make it easier. But at the same time, President Obama rolled out two different plans, so that confused a lot of people. And honestly, President Trump's first term, the first 3 years, it was fantastic. There was no changes. It was just processing of applications. You can plan. It was fantastic. And then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden things were on forbearance. President Biden kept extending forbearance, coming out with new policies, different lawsuits. And now we're in this shit show of still waiting for the courts to hear. Anyways, short little rant there, right? But let's go back to this whole filing separately thing, because that was the big bomb that was dropped. Okay. And by the way, if you're watching this live and you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I can see them on my screen. That's why I keep looking over. It's because some of you guys are already asking questions. But if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. Filing separately. Okay. The way this works is when you file separately on an income-driven repayment plan, then your payment's based on your income only. Okay. Now, a lot of you might be single right now listening to this, and you're like, what does this have to do with me? Well, you might be getting married in the future, so you're going to have to know about this stuff, right? If you're married already, a lot of you have been filing separately to keep that monthly payment down. And this is a big deal. I mean, we've seen some people, I just talked to somebody about a week and a half ago, that their payments are $300 a month. And if they were to file separately, their payments would be like $2,200 a month. Okay. Or I'm sorry, back that up. If they filed jointly, it would be about $2,200 a month, but filing separately, it's only $300 or $400 a month. So for a lot of people that are married, it is a drastic difference to the point where it may no longer even make sense to go on an income-driven repayment plan anymore. Okay. And just pay off your loans instead. Okay. So with that being said, what the Trump administration has said is that when they start processing these things, they want to simplify them. That's actually been an overarching message that he has been saying for a long time. There's too many different repayment plans. We need to simplify things. And I 100% agree. I don't care who says it. Simplification is better. Okay. But what they've come out and said is to simplify things. We don't care if it's filed separately or jointly. We're going to do the payments all jointly, period, based on joint incomes. Okay. And then that draws obviously a lot of red flags because right in the IBR legislation, it specifically says that you could file separately and it's only based on your income. So I believe one of two things is going to happen between now and May 11th is that the Trump administration is going to realize, yeah, that's the case, and they're going to do it separately. The reason why I say they're going to realize that is because you guys got to understand, okay? A lot of the powers that be that are not in government and they don't have any experience around student loans, like actually the different repayment plans, this concept of income driven and accruing interest and all this stuff, it's a new concept because for most people, they think of a loan. It's like, I got a loan, I'm paying it off. I make monthly payments, I pay it off over time. What's all this other crap for, right? And so when they say they're just going to do it jointly, they'll probably realize that it's in the statute that it has to be done separately. So I think either A, before the 11th, they're going to realize, yeah, they can't do this, or B, loan processing and loan applications processing is going to start, and they are going to do that. And then there's going to be a lawsuit, another lawsuit to stop them from doing that. Okay. Um, and so I don't see it really being a big deal. Like a lot of you are, I know, like freaking out, like what's going to happen with this. It's just one of those things that I don't, it's going to get rectified because it is in law. And it's the same way like President Biden got challenged in court for the SAVE plan. It was against the law. This is against the law as well, which is crazy because politicians, they all campaign saying like this person's breaking the law, we're going to get after them, and then they get in office and they all break the law. It's like, oh great, guys. um Now here is the big thing that came out of this whole filing separately versus jointly thing that a lot of you need to realize, and here, especially if you're a student right now, or if you are going to be borrowing more federal student loans in the future. Underneath President Obama, okay, when he changed or came out with the repay program, there was no filing separately versus jointly for payments. It was all based on dual incomes, period. It didn't matter how you filed. Okay. President Biden, one of the things that he wanted to pass as part of the SAVE legislation was actually changing a certain calculation in the way IBR and PAYE were calculated if you were filing separately. For those of you that like the nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts, basically what it said was if you file separately, you can't claim dependents for your student loan payments. And by doing that, basically claiming dependents drops your student loan payment. Okay. So President Biden tried to change something around the whole married filing separately versus jointly thing too. And now President Trump has come out and said, we want to simplify this and make this jointly. Why is this such a big deal? Because now we've had, what is that, 16, 20, I can't even count, 5, 4, 5, 13, about 17 years of presidents all doing something to change the married filing separately to only joint. So in the future, there is probably going to be a new income-based repayment plan coming out. I personally think there might be one coming out in the next 4 years underneath President Trump. In that, I would not be surprised if it says it's only filing jointly or it's always based on dual incomes if you're married. And again, this won't have a major effect for those of you that are already on a plan. It will affect you because if you say, hey, I want to go on that plan, that you might have to realize that that's okay, like that's a law that they're going to put into there. That's a stipulation. Okay. For those of you that are still in school and that are borrowing money, you're going to have to really be cognizant of it because you might be affected by that. And let's just say you're an undergrad and you're going to be going to grad school, you may be really affected by it. Okay. And so that is, I'm always talking about things to keep an eye out on, like just in the long term, that well, what can happen. That is something that can change. And I'll give you an example of why you need to keep that stuff in the peripheral in your mind of what can change. I remember back in like 2016, 2017, when we started being requested to do webinars and workshops at graduate programs about student loan stuff. One of the things that I said was when you go onto pay as you earn, okay, that was not passed by Congress. So it was done by President Obama. So I don't understand. Like, you got to be cognizant and be like, hey, that might change in the future, because if he could just change something with his pen, then it can be changed in the future and a detriment to me as well. And a lot of people are like, no, Joe, like that's not true. Well, guess what? That's what's being challenged in court right now. Okay. And actually, I'll bring that up right now. Pay as you earn. Yes, they are going to start processing that application again. The big thing we're still waiting for from the court, which I don't understand what's taking so long, first of all. It's like, this is not that difficult of a thing to decide on. But what we're still waiting for the court system to decide on pay as you earn is what happens at forgiveness. So those of you that are on IBR, income-based repayment, when the loans are forgiven in 20 years in the repayment, you have to claim it as income and pay taxes on it. Okay, we know that it is in law, it is in statute, it was passed by Congress. Okay, when it comes to pay as you earn, there's nothing in the bill, and nothing was passed by Congress on it. And so what the court is challenging is, when that's forgiven, is it going to be taxed? Okay, we don't know yet. We don't know. Okay. One of the questions we just got, and actually I'm going to talk about recertification next, because that news came out as well. And I know a lot of you are still confused, craziness about like, what about certification, right? And I want to talk about that next. We did get a quick question in the chat about public service loan forgiveness. Okay. Public service loan forgiveness, again, is passed by Congress. You're going to be grandfathered in. You're good to go. Okay. The thing that can change around there is potentially some of this chatter about what qualifies as a hospital, nonprofit, all that type of stuff. I know President Trump put some stuff out about a week ago about things like nonprofits that support terrorist organizations, all that type of stuff. Anything you read on any of that right now is complete speculation and bullshit, because nobody knows what any of this stuff means yet. It was just put out there for them to get proposals and feedback. There's been no definitions. There's been no clear cut. This is what it is. This is that. This is who it's affected by. Long story short, it's one of those things, like I just said about PAYE. Have it in the back of your mind. Know that it might be there. But again, even on PSLF, everybody that's already in it, I see, would be probably grandfathered in the situation that they're in right now. Some legal experts that I've talked to have said, turned around and said, that even if they change like hospital statuses from non-profit, like they don't count anymore, that those that are already there would be grandfathered in. I don't know how they're legally saying that, because it's like, well, if it's not a nonprofit, it doesn't count, right? Like, so all these things, it's all up in the air. Nobody knows on that. I would not sweat it right now. If you're already working at a nonprofit, I would just be like, I'm just going to keep showing up. And most of you are in healthcare, so that are listening to this. So I wouldn't worry too much about that as of right now. But that's a good question. Okay. Now let's go into recertification. Because this is confusing, because a lot of people are getting letters, and a lot of them are auto emails, and it's just a mindset. So some of you that were already on an income-based repayment plan, let's just say you sent in the certification forms to recertify your income, and they did not process it at all, and your payment jumped to like whatever it is, the standard 10-year plan. Okay, go file immediately for an income-based repayment plan. The applications are open. Like I said, they're going to start processing them. Tell them to put you on a forbearance so you don't have to make the payment, but do that ASAP. Okay. Those of you that were in the same situation, but they didn't change your monthly payment, well, your certification has been pushed back for a year at least. Okay. So like, if your certification is supposed to be, May 5th, and you submitted the certification and it didn't get done, well, then it's going to be May 5th of next year. Okay. Now, some of you certified but were put on to forbearance, and because it wasn't processed, again, I would fill out the IBR application again, so that way you can go on it and get it going. And then some of you had like IBR certifications that were due in like November of this year. They're not going to be due till November of next year. So you got like a whole another year. So yeah, some of you are from like 2019, 2020 that you graduated and you had a $0 payment because you didn't have income that first year. You're gonna have a $0 payment for like another year. Some of you might even have like $100 or $200 payment. So yes, that is perfectly normal. That's what's gonna end up happening. We've seen it with a number of borrowers, especially for those of you that graduated 2019, early 2020 time period. So that's the recertification information on that. Again, the big news for this live chat is that the IBR processing is going again. So, or it's supposed to be starting up. It should be being processed here in the next month. That is good news. Again, for most of you that were on safe forbearance, you probably want to switch over and actually start, going on to IBR. So submit those applications. There are some nuanced situations that doesn't make sense, but for most of you, you'll want to get on repayment, especially if you're at a nonprofit, so you can get some of that time counted. And then the other big news, filing separately. Okay. Again, I don't see that staying around very long. Let it either be the Trump administration just changing it or getting fought in court. It's going to be, it's going to live and die very fast, in my opinion. But it's important to analyze it and look at it because I think when they come out with another IBR plan, you're going to see it being based on dual incomes. We'll see. We'll see where that comes out on recertification. If you're seeing dates in the future, that's fine. And I will go in because there was a few questions on here, but for some reason my screen's actually cutting them off. So I was trying to answer them. If I didn't get to them, I apologize, but I did get one that says like, we know your investment or your background is a lot of investments. You tell us what you really think about the tariffs and all this stuff. Kind of, I don't know. Okay. Huh. I might have to bite my tongue a little bit on this, but we'll see. Actually, I'm going to hold on the tariff talk real fast because we had a few questions about some of the student loan stuff. One of them was, if I'm on Save, is it okay to switch to pay as you earn, or would it be better to go on IBR? IBR, like, and I'll caveat that in a second, but IBR, hands down, because we know that was passed by Congress and we know what the rules are and everything on that. Now, for some of you, IBR and pay as you earn, that payments are exactly the same. So it's an absolute no-brainer to go on IBR. Some of you don't qualify for the new IBR, you qualify for the old IBR. And so the monthly payments are higher because of the way they do the calculations versus new IBR. And so if you find yourself in that situation where all you do is qualify for old IBR, and the monthly payment is different than pay as you earn, then that's just a personal analysis. That's some of the stuff that we go through when we build out financial plans and do financial management with members of FitBUX, where we sit down and say, hey, like, how much more is this increase? Can you actually afford it or not? And then it's a personal preference. Do you want to go with the thing that's for sure ironclad because it was passed by Congress? Or do you want to take that risk and go into pay as you earn with the chance that it might change? Like I said, though, we're going to know here soon. I'm anticipating that in the next 2 months, we will know what's happening with pay as you earn. Again, it's just one of those things where I don't really trust it just because it wasn't passed by Congress. I want that thing in law. Okay. But that's my 2 cents on that. Now, tariffs. I look at everything in the news as a short-term cycle. Now, this is one of the first times I've seen things whipsaw so much so fast, like 9% down one day, 8% up the next day. Like, it's like, holy shit. I put my investor hat on. There's this thing called the VIX, the volatility index. I'm telling my buddies that trade, like, that have some accounts for me that trade for me. I'm like, short that thing. Like, let's go make some money. Because it's going to go down or on the VIX. That's something else. If you guys aren't traders, don't even worry about any of that stuff. What I'm trying to get at on all this is that this too shall pass. Like, it's the same thing that I used to say to people in 2008. And don't get me wrong, this is nowhere, like all this chatter about tariffs and stuff, it's nowhere near like what we had in 2008. Okay. This can be reversed, like, back and forth very easily, the same way that Trump just did, like, in the last few days with the different tariffs and changing them around, the market bounce back, right? So things can get changed that fast. But going back to like 2008, I used to tell clients all the time, that was when I was in wealth management. I would tell them all the time, the good news is the end of the world only happens once. and this is it. If this is the end of the world, your money's not going to even matter anyways. Like it's not going to be worth anything. So guess what? Even if the tariffs do take place and all these doomsday things that all these economists are coming out and saying, and all these professionals are coming out and saying, it's like, okay, well, it's either the end of the world or it's not. And if it's not the end of the world, it's a good time to buy. Like, what are we waiting for? Now, I know we did a live chat, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And on that live chat, I was talking about the market and investments and that type of stuff. And I said right on that live that we live in global economics, especially here in the United States, on a house of cards. I've been saying that since actually, I've been saying it publicly since 2008. But I started doing the research on that back into the dot-com bust. And it actually goes back before that. I just go back to the dot-com bust because that's when I started really investing heavily in my investment life, really in the stock market, really started going on. And it's like, that's when we started dropping interest rates. Then we had the dot-com or the housing bust, and we started funneling stimulus. And then we got COVID, and we did more stimulus. And it's just like, it's just bullshit on top of bullshit. It's a fake economy. And there's going to be a crash. But like I'll say when that crashes too, whatever, like the end of the world only happens once. Like, let's keep investing. And so I look at this tariff talk as an opportunity to buy things cheaper, especially if they drop. If it goes down even more, whatever, buy more. It's just another cycle. All of you on here, this is for all young professionals that are listening to this. You got a long time in the market. So keep your 401k contributions going in, keep your Roth IRA contributions going in. But this is also why you got to be a little bit active in it. With the portfolios that we have, we moved a lot of them towards the end of last year, weighted them more towards cash because we thought the market was overvalued. Well, then the market crashes down, and guess what? We can move the cash into some investments. Fantastic, right? But that's just active management that we do. But if you're trying to keep it simple, yeah, I don't see the tariffs as a big deal. I mean, I can go on an entire podcast rant about the tariffs and the politicians saying just on both sides of the aisle, just pulling shit out of their ass. Like, that's what it is. It's shit out of their ass. But I'll digress. We'll see. Maybe if I get enough people asking me to do a podcast on that side, maybe I will. But yeah, we'll see on that. But that is the big thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was student loans. And I'll stay on, see if you guys have any other questions for the next probably like minute or two before I gotta jump. But if you guys do have questions on that, just let me know. Again, the big news is the IBR processing is going to start up again. Applications are being processed. I'm excited about that. I've been waiting for that just because from a financial planning standpoint, it helps because now we know, right? Like I'm on this. I can now plan. I can now know what's happening. And that's the biggest thing with financial management is knowing that I can go and execute this plan. But then the filing separately thing, it is something definitely keep an eye on. I don't think it's ever going to be a long-term type of thing. So I wouldn't fret about it too much. I know there's a lot of anxiety about it. I saw it all over social media today. That's why actually I jumped on the live today, is because I was going to jump on it like later on this week because I just got done traveling to a bunch of universities doing student loan workshops and stuff for the last like 2 weeks. So I was like catching up and I was like, no, I got to jump on today because there's so many questions about this stuff. Did get another question. Do you think they will count the months we were in forbearance? No, I do not think they will. Actually, in fact, I know that they're not going to. Now, if you're on PSLF, you might be able to do something like PSLF buyback, but that will not be for a while. That's going to be down the road. If you guys want more information on that, when you go into YouTube, just type in like FitBUX PSLF buyback. We have a video on that, so that goes through the details. I think that might be there in the future, so you might be able to get some of this time counted in the future. But the months on forbearance, they've already flat out said no, it's not going to count. Which again, it sucks because at the end of the day, you, the borrower, get screwed. I mean, think about your life as a student, this journey through education. You're told in high school, get an education at all costs. In fact, I was just doing a video and a podcast this morning where Business Insider is quoting a teacher about the reasons why you should go to school, and it's all about finding yourself. It's like, F you, how about you pay the 80 grand for me to go to school, then I'll go get all that stuff. Like, we were sold this pack of lies and this bullshit, especially my generation. Like, we were sold, and actually, I shouldn't say just my generation, the generation after us, they're actually probably even sold even more on this bullshit lie where, I mean, you need a college education just to do like an outbound sales job at a company. It's like, this is bullshit. Like, what does this mean? Like, why were we doing this? Anyways, we were lied this bullshit. And then you go graduate, you go into repayment, and you're on these plans, and then they're constantly changing them and telling you can't even be in repayment. You're going to be in forbearance, and by the way, this time doesn't count towards forgiveness. It's like, so I mean, I feel for all of you guys. I feel for every single one of you borrowers. I mean, it's bullshit what's happening to you guys, and I mean, anyways, you can see I get pissed off about this stuff. I get heated about it, which is exactly why I started FitBUX, because it's not just student loans. It's across the board, from mortgages to investments to financial planners. There's so much crap that people that are just trying to do the right thing, it's like you get taken advantage of, and in my opinion, it's BS, right? But yeah, so there's my my 60-second rant on them not counting this towards forbearance after telling you have to be in forbearance and not even letting you change. That's been going on since July of last year too. So I got another question. Will there be a recording of this? Yeah, I'm going to leave it up on YouTube so you guys can reference it again. I just got a message. It was like, you started talking about some tariffs. Maybe you should take it down and not leave it up. Now I'll leave it up for you guys. I didn't go that much into my tariff stuff, but maybe one day I'll go into it. Any speculation on what will happen to those on Save if they officially cancel it? That is a hell of a question. I have to go by the best information available, which as of right now, they said that anybody on Save is on forbearance until I think it's October or November of this year. Okay, period. The reason why they said that is because I think that they're anticipating that this court is going to decide towards the end of May, early June, I think, sometime period. And typically it takes about 3 months to take a court decision to ramp it up for the loan servicers. So you're looking at around September, October time period of when they're going to be ready. And I think that's why the Biden administration said, hey, like this is not going to be until October, November of 2025. However, it's not that hard to implement if they say, hey, into May, we got the court decision, Save is gone. I can see the Trump administration being like, it's gone. Like you're entering repayment. Go on and make your choice. Is it IBR or pay as you earn? And not abiding by what Biden said. I can see them doing that because they can process it very quickly because IBR isn't changing, pay as you earn isn't changing. It's just Save going away. So we already have the plans, we already have the technology, we already have the document processing flows to onboard people. So there shouldn't be a 3-month ramp up. I could see them potentially keeping that ramp up just because, I mean, there's like 9 million, 8 million something people on Save. It's going to overload the system. And so I could potentially see them doing like a staggered type of rollout where like 1 million people have to do it by this day, 1 million by this date, all that type of stuff. But it's really too early to tell. I'm going to say as of right now, it's going to be October, November, because that's the best information that anybody has. We'll see on that. Anybody that says anything differently, by the way, it's all speculation. They don't know. Okay. They have no idea. Some people I see out there, they're like, they're going to extend this into 2026. They have to. Okay. Like they don't have to do anything. They've already proven that. It's the government, right? So, do you think if I'm on Save, it is too late to switch to PSLF? So PSLF is not a repayment plan. Okay. It's a feature. So the repayment plans are ICR, which is income contingent repayment plans, which most of you would never want to be on. It's the old one. Don't even worry about that one. There's IBR, there was pay as you earn, and there's Save. Okay. Those are the actual repayment plans. PSLF is just a feature saying if you're on one of those plans and you work full time for a nonprofit, then you get your loans after 120 on-time payments, you get your loans forgiven, which is 10 years, and you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So you can't switch to PSLF. You have to be on one of those plans and work for a nonprofit. So the decision is not necessarily Save to PSLF, it's Save. And then it goes back to the earlier question we have, do I go on IBR or pay as you earn? If if you have the choice, if the payments are the same, go on IBR. If the payments are not the same and pay as you earn is a lot cheaper, then go on pay as you earn for the time being and just keep an eye out. You should be okay if you're on PSLF, even if you're on pay as you earn, which I did just get that question right now of like, should I care if I'm on pay as you earn if they change it if I'm on PSLF? The answer is no. And here's the reason. The big thing that's being questioned right now on pay as you earn is what happens at forgiveness after 20 years. Is it taxed or do you owe a lump sum? If you're on public service loan forgiveness, that doesn't even matter because your loans, it's in statute. Your loans are forgiven after 120 payments and you owe nothing in taxes. So I said, like most of you would want to go on IBR, all else equal. If you're on pay as you earn and you're on public service loan forgiveness right now, you don't really have anything to worry about. I would keep an eye out though, just in case something changes. But you can breathe a little bit easier if you're on pay as you earn and public service loan forgiveness working at a nonprofit. And again, this just goes to show you guys, like what I was just saying a few minutes ago, this shit's so confusing. Like if you're confused when I'm going through that right now, you got to replay this video like 5 times to understand it. Like I said, I'm a finance expert and I've been in this for 10 years in student loans. I mean, in everything from mortgages to investments and financial planning, everything else. But I mean, focusing on student loans with young professionals because we work with like 50,000 young professionals. So we know, like, I've had to learn the student loan stuff inside and out, and it's confusing as hell. I mean, when we sit down and we try to train new financial experts, you guys that talk to you on the phone, trying to go through these nuances with them and having them understand all the intricacies, it's like, holy crap, it's mind numbing. And then they want to know why the loan servicers suck. I mean, the loan servicers, they're not even finance people that you call and talk to on the phone. How are they supposed to know this stuff? Anyways, another rant, right? As you can tell, I've been flying a lot, so I haven't been able to talk to very many people. I've been in airplanes the last 2 weeks, so I'm glad to be here talking to you guys tonight. So, how do we know if it's best to do an application for IBR if our say recert has been pushed off to next year or to wait it out? So, like I said, most people are going to want to go to IBR because they want that clock ticking towards forgiveness. Or they're at a nonprofit, you definitely want to switch it so that clock keeps ticking. There are some nuances that we run into where people want to stay on save. One of those is you just can't afford anything right now. Something happens. We've had some people that had health problems, whatever it may be, they're temporarily out of work. So yeah, stay on save forbearance. It's not costing you anything. You might as well stay. We've had other people also want to stay too because they have some other goals that are allowing them to really take advantage of this forbearance thing. And what I mean by that is like they're trying to save for a down payment for a house or save for a car, or maybe they have credit card debt that they're paying off aggressively. So yeah, in that case, stay on save forbearance, keep your payments at zero, it doesn't hurt you, and accomplish those other goals. And so that's why I say it's really a personalized thing because you have to look and say, well, what are the other goals that I have? Can I use this money to really benefit me in that for right now? Now, if not, like, yeah, switch to IBR. There's no reason to stay on it, especially again, like I said, if you're going at a nonprofit, like get that clock going. Like, let's go. The other time I said nonprofit, so I want to make sure I throw this out there. If you only have like 3 or 4 months left, 5 months left at working at a nonprofit before you hit the 120 months for forgiveness, then you would want to stay in forbearance as well because you could take advantage of PSLF buyback. Okay, so again, this stuff is so nuanced. That's why I emphasize with you guys, like, shameless promotion. Go sign up for FitBUX, and we'll walk you guys through all this stuff. It's $18 a month, like $180 a year. It's worth it for the peace of mind. That's my opinion. Shameless plug again. But yeah, this stuff is so nuanced. I would go in and set up a profile, schedule a call with us. Yes, we have the technology, but I very highly emphasize schedule a call with us, especially if it's your first time using the technology, to make sure that you got all your plan built, all your questions answered, and you got some peace of mind around that. So just a little bit more clarification. I was on repay initially. You applied to switch to save, and since that, nothing's happened. Do I need to do anything right now or just wait for my recert date? It depends. Okay. And then you followed up on that question, so I'll revert that. I'll you read the next question. If we're on pay as you earn at PSLF, should we switch to IBR? I filed married filing separately for the first time this year, got married in 2024. If you're on pay as you earn and you're on PSLF, I would just hold tight for the time being. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, everything on pay as you earn that got brought up in court right now is what happens at forgiveness if you're not on PSLF. They're not questioning what happens if you're on pay as you earn and you're on PSLF. So right now, just to reiterate, like if you're on pay as you earn and you're on PSLF, just stick it out for the time being. There's no reason to switch right now. Okay. If you apply for new IBR application in order to switch to IBR, will they process the one submitted in January first, or is there a way to delete that application so it will be switched over to IBR? This I wish I had a good answer, because it's a lot of speculation. I would assume they're just gonna do the most recent one. I have heard through the grapevine that there was so many backlogs of applications that they literally just like deleted and ignored certain ones from a prior date going forward so they can start processing the new ones since the last like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That's all speculation. I have no idea if they actually did that or not. Like, I do have some sources that I talk to at the DOE and whatnot. Um, but they're like, yeah, we've never really heard of that. But I don't think they would actually admit to that if they did that. Um, but if you do have two, I mean, we have some people that have like 3 applications, and like I said, we've had people wanting to switch since August of last year. Okay. Um, if they do process them, it just means you're going to be getting some notices in the mail saying, hey, here's your payment. And then the next one's like, hey, here's your payment. And then the next one's like, here's your payment. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. We'll see. But even if you submitted different ones, they shouldn't be that different. And if you filed separately, it's based on your income as of right now. That was the big news, though. That's what I was saying in the very beginning, is you got to keep an eye out, because some of you might be going on to some of these plans, and the Trump administration might do it based on joint income, and then you're gonna have to tell them go on, potentially on forbearance until this another court case is filed or something like that. So just keep your eye out, because this whole thing about filing jointly and the payments being based on joint income, no matter what, yeah, it's going to throw a monkey wrench into some things over the next coming weeks, coming months. But like I said, I don't see that staying for that long, because again, it's in the law. So I don't see it being that big of a deal. I just think it's going to cause a lot of confusion in the short run. So, but yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff. As always, guys, we try to put out updates on this, everything from investments to student loans, things as they hit the news. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, so that way you get the notifications when we're doing stuff like this. Always, send us questions. A lot of times, like if I jump on a live, it's because I'm getting these questions, a lot. And it's like, okay, well, let's jump on a live and do that. If I don't get the questions from you guys, I don't know what's concerning them, what's not. I mean, that certification stuff that I've touched on, like I said, that came out a few weeks ago, and I didn't do a live on it just because like nobody was asking really that many questions. Then all of a sudden, the last like day or two, I've gotten flooded with them. So it's like, yeah, I'll talk about the recertification stuff. Okay. If for whatever reason if news comes out and you don't see me do a video or a live on it, especially when it comes to student loans, it's probably because it's not that big of a deal. Like you could probably just ignore it. And I'll give you an example. Actually, I did one the other day, not a live, but a video on this. And this is why you guys got to be careful. This stuff really pisses me off. A few weeks ago, when this whole thing with Elon Musk and Doge was all out there about doing all these different things with the Department of Education and privacy laws and all this type of stuff, all of a sudden this rumor started around like Reddit or TikTok or some bullshit about violation of privacy laws, and that you could sue the government and get your loans discharged. And there is some bitch, and I will say it, she's a bitch on social media, on TikTok, putting this out there, selling a PDF form that you can fill out for $20 to send to the government to get your loans discharged. And she had like 2 million views on this video, and people like, send it to me. I mean, she probably made $1 million off of this scam. It's bullshit, because even if there was a violation of privacy law underneath what they were talking about, the court's already ruled you have no grounds to sue. There's no monetary benefit. They're not going to discharge your loans. It was pure BS. So if you don't see me do like a video on that type of stuff or a live on that type of stuff, it's because it's BS. And please don't fall for scams like that. I know you guys are all wishful about some of this stuff, especially with the forgiveness stuff. Yeah, yeah, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? So, um, but again, I thank you guys for coming on to the live. Great questions as always. If you guys have any questions in the future, you know how to reach out to us. If you need help in your personal situation, like I said, sign up at FitBUX, become a member, build your profile. I highly encourage you scheduling a call the very first time you come onto the service, so that way we can get everything set up for you guys. As always, we'll see you guys soon. Sorry, I swear so much on this live chat. As you can tell, I was pissed off about some of the stuff. So I swear sometimes when I'm pissed. But I will talk to all you guys soon. See you later.